It is Thursday, March 8th, 2018. It is 6:36, and I call to order the regular meeting of Snoqualmie Valley Hospital District Number 4. Can we have a roll call, please? Oh, wait. Flag salute first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe we have a revised agenda.
Correct.
Okay. So,
and it's in the packets.
Yeah, it's in the packets. We just got some stuff from our consultants, so our agenda is somewhat revised.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Roll call?
Yes. Thank you. Roll call.
President Norris?
Here.
Vice President Barron?
Here.
Secretary Spikers?
Here.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Pollard?
Here.
So, do I have approval of the revised agenda?
I would like to, before we approve the agenda, to make a motion to include under committee reports the bylaws ad hoc committee update.
Do I hear a second?
What was the motion, please?
She wants to add the bylaws committee under committee reports. They met this month, and she would
Today.
like to have give us a report.
I seconded it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, it's unanimous. All right. So we've amended the agenda, or do we have to now approve the agenda? Let's approve the agenda. Do I hear
As amended, right?
Yes, as amended.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we did that. We now have public comment. You have 3 minutes if someone has public comment. There doesn't seem to be any public comment, so we will go on to communications. And I did receive some communication this last week or so. I was CC'd on an email from Kelly Spratt to Commissioner Herron, and I'm not exactly sure why I was CC'd, but I was. Ms. Spratt had concerns about the Sister Cities program. The email has little to do with King County Hospital District Number 4, except that J. Rodney assisted with the Snoqualmie Sister Cities Association registration with the Secretary of State. Jay was employed at that time by the hospital district and used the hospital district address. CEO Tom Parker has contacted Representative J. Rodney, and the hospital address has been removed. In addition, the entity was administratively dissolved as of March 1st, 2017. Other than the issue with the address, which is now resolved, and I will send everybody a copy of the Attorney General's statement of dissolvement so they know that in fact happened. There you go, Emma. I don't think that there's I see no other concerns for our hospital district and the Snoqualmie, between us and the Snoqualmie Sister City program.
Okay.
Are there any questions? Okay, we'll move on. Our CEO, Tom Parker.
Thank you. You have a copy of my report in your packet, and there are copies on the back table. I'll begin with affiliation. The update on affiliation is on our agenda tonight and will be provided by Sarah Kagan and Steve Hebner. It includes a report from the negotiating team to be presented by President Norris and Commissioner Spikers, and more on that later. The financial report tonight will show that in January there was a net income of $271,000. Compared to the budget net income for the month of $72,000, our unrestricted cash rose to $8.5 million. The average daily census in January was 23.2 compared to the budget of 22, and the occupancy rate was 93%. Our emergency department saw 367 patients. That was 10% above budget, and operating expenses were 0.1% over budget, 37, pretty much on budget at 37.22 over. February, though, our inpatient volumes were lower than January, with an average daily census of 22.7. That's still over budget, but it was lower. Our ED visits in February were under budget, 286 compared to 302, which is the budget. With respect to employee satisfaction and our culture of patient safety survey, our 2018 survey has now been sent out to all of our employees. The survey provides management with information on how employees perceive their experience working at the hospital or clinics, and the degree to which they and their peers work together and individually to improve patient safety and quality care. The survey period opened on March 1st, and it closes on March 19th. We'll have more to report on that as we go through the results. A career fair, I shouldn't say our career fair, but tomorrow we will be hosting a career fair that is being put on by the Snoqualmie Valley Community Network, the Snoqualmie Valley School District, and Snoqualmie Valley Chamber of Commerce. We will provide local high school students from Two Rivers School and Mount Si High School with an introduction to healthcare careers through interactions with department heads and staff in a variety of medical career areas. Representatives from the UW School of Pharmacy, Bellevue College, and local providers will also participate tomorrow. At the Chamber presentation on February 28th, I had the privilege to make a presentation. It was actually a really good opportunity to talk to the community about the district, the services we provide, some trends on volume and financials, as well as payment reform and what's happened, what was the update as of then on our affiliation strategy. Some of you were there. Appreciate that. The 340B program and the Rural Health Clinic program, I'll keep on these updates. We also report on these in other committees, but we anticipate that our go live is going to occur on April 1st as planned for the 340B drug program. The Rural Health Clinic designation will depend on what's called, it's an unannounced survey. And there's a state authorized surveyor, and you can't know when they're coming. And that's a good thing. And so we'll let you know once we have our survey and what the result of that is. King County Search and Rescue, still something that I'd like to report on. The site work has begun on East Campus for the housing of King County Search and Rescue vehicles and supplies. Discussion occurred in the Facilities Committee regarding the need for signage visible to motorists on the parkway, indicating the new home for King County Search and Rescue vehicles and the partnership with the hospital. Once relocated to East Campus, King County Search and Rescue will have a shorter travel distance for times that they respond to incidents within this district. And so we're excited about this partnership with them and helping them with that. Lastly, on our work study, Valerie is continuing to look for an alternative date to our work study session this month. Just to note, the topics of that work study are a review of accomplishments from 2017. I'll be doing that, and Steve will be presenting the quarterly compliance report. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Question, what time is the career fair again? Because it's not
The career fair
start
is
tomorrow.
really an all-day.
All day.
I shouldn't say all day. There's a group coming in the morning,
Okay.
and that's at 9 o'clock. And
9
then there's
a.m.
another group, Val, what's the afternoon group? 1 o'clock,
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
Or 8:30, actually. They roll in at 8:30.
At 9:50.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
the displays and the vendors are here all day.
And no vendors, it's just our hospital department heads, staff, Bellevue College, UW School of Pharmacy, and some other local providers who are talking about careers in healthcare.
Okay.
And they'll be in this room. They'll come and they'll be able to go from table to table and talk to people about different careers. That will come after a couple of us provide them with tours of the hospital.
We're also participating in the job fair at outside center, are we not?
I don't think we are doing that one, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Could you explain briefly what the 340B drug program is? Or will that be reported in the medical committee?
I can answer that. The 340B drug program is a federal program that allows hospitals to acquire pharmaceuticals at a much lower cost.
Thank you. I have another question, but maybe others have questions.
I do. I just want to clarify the finances second bullet point in your report. That figure, 271,000, has bounced around quite a bit, and I'm kind of curious because first it was 271, then it was 247, and now it's 271 again.
Steve and I went over those numbers. He's not here tonight, but
Okay.
I can tell you that we scrubbed that and figured out that what had happened was a draft had gone out, and it was an incorrect number.
This was the original figure.
This is the correct figure.
Okay.
Yeah, I verified.
That I had in finance meeting, but then I got a different.
I know.
Okay, so this
And
is the correct.
He felt terrible about it, and we talked about it.
I just didn't want to misrepresent anything to the public, that's all.
We
Okay.
validated that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Okay. The chair recognizes Commissioner Pollock.
The rural health clinic, it says we anticipate approval. What does approval mean? What are we being approved for?
Approval means that both of our clinics will qualify or will receive that designation as a rural health clinic. And rural health clinics receive cost-based reimbursement for Medicare.
Weren't we already?
The hospital inpatient is cost-based reimbursement, but the clinic is not. The clinics are not. So this provides for a different calculation, a different way that we get reimbursed, which is advantageous.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is Skip Hauser. He's going to do some communication on board education and Robert's rules and reminders.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Madam President and board members, this is your 5 minutes Robert Rule reminder this evening. And this is an interesting topic. This is on page 44 in Robert's Rules under Chapter 2, Section 4. It's called putting the question. That's an interesting term. What does putting the question mean? It means when the debate appears to have closed, the chair may then ask, are you ready for the question? Or is there any further debate? If no one rises to claim the floor, or in your case, since you don't rise from your chairs, if no one announces otherwise, then the question is put. It is put to a vote after once making clear the exact question that the assembly is asked upon to decide. So the chair's wording of the question might be erroneous. If it is, then one of the other members has a duty and an obligation to ask for a point of order and say, Madam President, Madam Chair, we believe that you've misstated the motion. Even though now she's prepared to take the vote, until someone actually votes, then you can correct that. Once it's been given and she's taking votes, then it is definitive. Then you would have to go through another process. The exact wording of the chair used puts the question becomes definitive. So if you have a concern as to what you're voting on or what the motion is, it's most appropriate to get it corrected prior to the vote. When there is a possibility of confusion, the chair, before calling for the vote, should make sure the members understand what an aye vote or a nay vote would mean. And the chair could say, if you are voting aye in support of this motion, this is what's going to occur. We'll approve the surplus resolution. If you vote no, you're voting against the surplus resolution. The chair could also ask the clerk or the secretary to read back the motion. And you've done that with Val, of course, and she'll read it back and say, this is what I understand the motion to be. The vote on a motion is normally taken by voice, via voce, Latin for by voice. So if you hear your president say, we will now take the vote via voce, she's telling you you're going to articulate verbally by voice vote. In putting the question, any of the methods that the chair calls first for an affirmative vote, all who wish to vote in favor of the motion indicate in the manner specified. Then he calls for the negative vote. So what that means is they should first ask all those in favor of the motion signify the vote of aye. And then all those opposed signify the vote of nay, or you could actually say not aye. So long as you're clear, it's a voice vote what you're voting for. Are you voting affirmatively or are you voting negatively? The chair must always call for the negative vote, no matter how nearly unanimous the affirmative vote may appear. So if you did a voice vote and it sounded like everybody voted aye, you still should call for the nay vote or the negative vote. Even in such case, if any member objects, the chair must call for a negative vote. Even if it says, wait a minute, everybody voted affirmatively, just call for the negative vote. It's a good suggestion to always have that on the record in case somebody wasn't heard. The other thing, and you all know this, and we covered this before, because we have talked about motions, we've talked about decorum, we've talked about length of speeches. You can't change your vote. If you voted aye, you can't also vote nay. You can only make one vote. And as you know, it's in the last paragraph there. To abstain means not to vote at all. And a member who makes no response, if abstentions are called for, abstains just as much as one who responds to that effect. So that's your 5 minutes of Robert's Rules, putting the question. Commissioner Pollard.
With respect to abstentions, it's still noted as abstention.
You can still note in the record that it was an
Record.
abstention. Correct. It's just not reflected as a vote. But it's recorded, as Mr. Pollard says, it's recorded as an abstention, it's just not recorded as a vote. Yep.
Does it go into as a negative vote then? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so a negative vote is a no, or a nah, a nay.
But
Let's clarify, I think
yeah.
if you abstain, you don't mark it as no.
You do not, it's not a no vote.
But it's a negative.
It's not a vote.
It's as if they were not in the meeting.
It's as if they did not partake or take a no or a
Okay.
yes. So it's not voting in the affirmative, it's not voting in the negative, it's not voting.
Okay.
And it's recorded as...
I guess earlier he said
Recorded
it's a
as an
negative.
abstain.
So then if, in this case, if we have 5 and one commissioner abstains, and we have a 2-2 vote, then are we tied, and do we have to do something to...
You are tied, and the motion would fail because you did not receive a majority of the votes.
Okay.
And it says the majority of the votes of those individuals that are voting, not of the entire board.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I noticed that they always say the chair and he.
I noticed that too,
I
Commissioner
take
Pollard.
it this is just quoted directly from Robert's Rules?
Yeah, it's on page 44, and so, I would like to change the vernacular, but it does use the male pronoun more often than the female pronoun, and Commissioner Pollard's correct, we take it right out of Roberts, and Roberts is, is many, many, many years dead now, so we can't blame him, but I would like to see that updated at some point.
Thank you. Commissioner Spikers, did you have any questions? I thought maybe you did. No.
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Skip. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda and approval of the minutes for the February 8th, 2018 regular meeting. Does anybody have any changes or objections to those?
I just want to comment that I cannot partake in approving those minutes because I was not here.
You weren't here for the meeting,
No,
For which meeting?
February
February 8th.
Okay, so we
Okay.
have to maybe remove that from the consent agenda and vote on that separately, or how do we?
No,
No.
no. We can go ahead and vote.
Or not vote? Yeah.
I mean, no, he's saying he cannot vote, but it's because he wasn't here.
Right,
But the rest of us will vote.
okay. We got enough to pass.
Okay, so the approval of minutes for February 8th, 2018, all those in favor as they are written.
Don't we pass this as a consent agenda?
Yeah, but I think now that it's changed and we're missing Commissioner Spikers for this, how does that work with February 28th?
You can
February
vote
8th.
against it.
February 28th, yeah.
Well, I move approval of the consent agenda, all items thereof.
All items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
abstain for reasons.
Excuse me, was there a second?
No.
There
No.
was no second.
No. All those in favor say, wait, sorry. Do I have a motion to pass
The consent.
the consent
You have a
agenda?
motion from Commissioner Pollard
Yeah. Yes.
to approve the consent agenda as written and provided. Now you're looking for a second to the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Commissioner Young. The consent agenda, all those in favor of approving it, say, oh, and also we have position
That's
credentials.
just the consent. Yeah.
Just the
Okay,
first
all right,
one.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will mark,
You
Can
ask
you-
if there's any opposed, and then we'll...
yeah, is there any opposed?
I'm just abstained for previously
Being
discussed
gone.
reasons.
Yeah, okay. But that, were you there on February 28th?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand how we can approve a consent and have him
He
not...
can abstain from the whole consent, and it's fine for him to do
So
that.
as long as
Okay.
you have a majority to approve the consent
Okay.
agenda, it's
All right.
a motion.
Even though he
You could have
abstained.
had 2, 3 abstains.
Still, yeah.
All right, thank you. All right. Moving on, committee reports. Finance Committee, Commissioner Spikers.
Oh, thank you. We had a positive month, probably the 8th out of the last 9 months, probably, somewhere in that regard, maybe, or 7th out of the last 8 months, pretty close. I believe that we did budget for a loss in February because there are only 28 days, not 30 or 31. So that will be expected next month. We did discuss a few items that I raised concerning higher salaries and also professional fees that are over budget for this last month. And some of the information that I received from staff was that the higher volumes necessitated additional professional fees in the med-surg specifically. And we also had a vacancy, a couple of vacancy MAs on the ridge. So due to FMLA, and that would pretty much take care of the discrepancy or the differences in the budget versus what we ended up with for January. I did raise an issue, and I'm hoping that we can maybe address it at a later time. Come across some information. I've been, as the board does know or remembers, that I've been raising the issue about the rehabilitation part of our business, and it's been significantly low. And the last reason that we did receive was that the proximity to the high volume of traffic, people trying to get in and out of here. But based on some citizen responses, not really responses, but citizens that brought to my attention, there were I think maybe a reason might be is we don't have the hours necessary for people that are working to come here to actually use the hospital. So Tom was going to check into that to see what the volumes are early, like 7 to 9 or something like that, where people can go there before they go to work, or after work from 3 to 6, and they can come or work early or come home and be able to meet those appointments. So I'm hoping that you find something out there that might help our bottom line as far as how many appointments we get. So this came to my attention. It's up to Tom to decide if we need to do something or not. It's not our province at all. It's not our jurisdiction, so to speak. So I'm hoping that something does come out of that he can figure something out that we can increase our rehabilitation procedures. So the other thing I wanted to, we did address that did come to our. Are we going to have a presentation on Vistar upgrade tonight? Vistar upgrade
Yes.
proposal?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll save my comments for that proposal,
Okay.
I think, because
Yes.
we had a very in-depth presentation by Dr. Woodcock.
It would help if your CEO had a briefing.
Okay. Do you need this?
I do.
Okay. All right. Well, you have my comments on here, too.
Oh.
So that's okay.
Okay, Val said it's in here.
Okay. So I'll wait for that to come up at the appropriate time. It is a capital expenditure, but We did quiz and cross-examine Dr. Whitcup pretty thoroughly in the meeting, so I can comment when it's appropriate. Trying to see if there's something else here that would be helpful. I know that our accounts receivable is down. That's a good thing. That does fluctuate, seeing between 55 and 60 for the last, I don't know, 12 months or so, 9 months maybe. Our debt service coverage is 1.66. We only need to have 1.2. If you're all familiar with that. If you have questions, I can describe or explain what that means. Days cash on hand, we're required to have 60 days. We have 97, so those are all good things. It is not expected this year that we will dip below the 1.2 debt service coverage at all. So I think that kind of the main things. I think I can answer any questions. We did cover the remainder of the packet pretty carefully. And I apologize for not getting the finance packet out until today. We just had a meeting yesterday because of my schedule, unfortunately. It's been pretty hectic, so it's my fault that it came out late, not the staff. So. Any questions? Oh, I have one other thing to approve the
Warrants.
the disbursements for the period January 1st to January 31st, and then I can take questions of $2.469 or $2,469,012.01, and that, of course, is all of the warrants payable, accounts payable warrants, as well as the payroll and auto deposit payroll taxes, retirement plans. The majority of this month's disbursements are payroll and retirement and taxes. So I'd make a motion to approve the warrants as requested.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of passing the warrants, say aye.
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 Those that don't, say no.
No.
Commissioner Pollard does not. Okay.
He said that after that we would be taking questions.
Yes.
Yes.
I received some information about a bondholders survey or information. I got an email that indicated that we are subject to some kind of hearing with bondholders. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tom? I do.
It's an annual one,
Tell us
isn't
what
it?
that's all about.
Our bondholders like to get updates on how we're doing periodically, and so Steve and I do a conference call with them about every quarter.
No. Get the regular one.
Yeah.
Nothing unusual.
Oh, no. The bondholders typically want to talk to people in the organizations where they have investments.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a point of clarification, does the rehab department come under the medical committee? Does the medical committee look at issues like Mr. Spiker's raised?
I'd like to answer that. The rehab department, with respect to the scope of services that it provides, if there were to be a change in the scope of services, the kind of care that we provide, that would be something we'd talk about in the medical committee. What we have been dealing with has been primarily, almost exclusively, an issue of declining volumes, and how do we, and so it's really a financial and kind of issue. Well, is it traffic, is it something else? But the finance committee, seeing that those volumes have been declining, have been discussing, and we've been working on trying ways to mitigate that decline in volume. So it's really been a volume issue.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Commissioner Spikers? Did we already do the warrants? Are we ready?
We did.
Okay, then we are done. Are we missing something?
I'm going to talk about this, John.
Oh, that's right, you would like to say
I
that?
would, thank you.
Want to talk about the what?
The star, remember? You
Oh,
brought
okay, I
up
just thought
the
that was a separate section.
I
Okay.
did too,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Okay.
We, the staff reported to the executive, or excuse me, to the finance committee on a capital item. As you recall, we budgeted for capital for this year, just under $100,000 worth of capital, and then indicated that we would bring back to the board when we were recommending that we actually acquire any specific capital item. This is the first one for the year. This is called the Vistar upgrade, and what this is a upgrade or replacement of the credentialing computer system that we use here. So all of the applications for it, reapplications, recredentialing work that goes on here at the hospital is computerized, as it is for any hospital. The system that we purchased is over 11 years old. We put that software and hardware together. It's a server sitting right here on site. The server itself is antiquated and no longer being serviced. The operating system itself is no longer being serviced, and the application that runs all of our data for credentialing is no longer upgradable. In fact, it's been quite some time since that's had an upgrade. So we started looking for alternatives because a crash of this system would be a serious problem for us. We have over 300,000 records in that system related to physician credentialing. And so we took a look at who are the providers for this service, and everyone in this product category have gone online. It's all cloud-based, it's all internet-based now. And so we took a look at 3 of the vendors, and interestingly, Vistar was the vendor with the lowest cost of all of them. We initially received a quote from them that was over $50,000. That was more than we had budgeted for. This was back before we set the budget for it. And what we did is we worked with them to lower that cost by having some of our staff do some of the work, especially around the transition of those records from the computer system that they're sitting on to the cloud. So we were able to get that cost down. The other advantage of going with this system is that the annual maintenance fee is much lower because it's all sitting on a cloud-based server than an individual server here on our site. And they don't have to do as much work on it because it's not old software. So we are recommending to the board that we upgrade, get off of this antiquated system that really has no backup and could cause a catastrophic problem for us, and upgrade to the Vistar program, which is the cloud-based service, and that we do that now. This is our top priority capital item for the year versus any other. And just to note, we did have this on our capital plan for last year, and we put it off and put it off, and we really didn't spend capital last year, and this is top of our list. While there are other important capital items, this is the one that we believe poses most risk to the organization.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for our CEO, Commissioner Pollard?
How much money are we talking about?
When
I concluded, I realized I hadn't said the number, $26,100.
Your comment earlier that we bring capital items back when we're ready to move on them and so forth, that's only above $5,000, isn't it?
Capital is defined as a cost of an item that has a useful life longer than 1 year and a cost of over $5,000.
Thank you.
Correct.
The real question is this compatible with other East Side hospital systems at other East Side hospitals, and shouldn't we consider that since we are considering the idea of M&A?
Yeah, these systems, whether or not you are a system or not, each hospital as its own entity must have its own credentialing system. Each each hospital board continues, even inside systems, to have the credentialing function. For the most part, they continue to do that. If we had to integrate this with other hospital systems, we would do that. But frankly, waiting for an affiliation would be putting this organization at huge risk.
Is that urgent?
It is that urgent. We have been putting it off, and our IT department has expressed this in the strongest of terms.
Is there another question from another commissioner?
I just would have a comment just a little further to go in a little bit more depth of what your question was, if I may. If we were to affiliate with a large organization, there's 1,000 more doctors that we have to credential. This system would have no problem doing it. And so that's and it is by state statute, I believe, is required of us. So it's a very important thing if we're not diligent and don't do something like this. The other thing is the monthly maintenance fee is less. We'll recoup some of the cost through, I believe it's a $3,600 per year for 5 years. The old fee was $5,000. So there is some recoupment by a lower maintenance price. I didn't want to, I didn't want any capital budget items on our desk last year. None. And this is something that, okay, finally, a year later, after we've been asking, if this thing crashes. I don't know if you've had a computer crash. I've had one crash about 15 years ago. It cost me about $28,000 to recoup that information. I was required to by the Bar Association, and it took a lot of money to get all that information and put it on a different hard drive. And back then, I don't think we had antivirus protection as well as we do now, and we don't have cloud service now. Like we didn't have cloud service back then like we do now. So a different kind of thing, but I wouldn't want to be in a situation where we're paying $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 to recoup this information. So,
but what's the projection for bringing it to the board for approval?
I'm presenting it now, and I would very much like to have a motion that we move forward with this, given that it was in the budget for this year, and we're bringing it in on budget.
Commissioners, could I add just a number?
The IT person.
Price is our director of IT, and may have
just one.
Could the board consider a comment from? I'd ask that the board would.
Yes.
That's part of the staff.
I would very much appreciate that.
The chair recognizes Bryce.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that.
And no, that's secret being
I just want to put
recognized.
you all at ease on this.
I just wanted you to come
Oh,
here
yeah,
so that
there's-
we've got,
thank you.
we
You're
can
part of
all
the
hear you clearly.
Greg Richard, IT Director, been here quite a while. So what we have is a system that, again, 11 years ago we purchased, and it's running on a SQL server that's 2006 about. And it's a security issue at this point. It's a data recovery issue. A parallel to that, there was this huge security issue because it's a compliance and our auditing that we will get caught on every year because it is so old. And it's easily, there's things I don't want to say in public really, but to you people, it is a very high priority.
Yes.
As far as not just the data, but the actual security aspect of it as well.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is this system the one that's being used by area hospitals, to your knowledge?
It is not, but as far as Tom goes, I agree 100% that it would be a very expensive and coordination and nightmare to start co-mingling credentialing. But that's out of my expertise.
So there's no real disadvantage if it's incompatible with some other large hospital system?
Correct, because we would individually continue to have to maintain credentialing files.
Security-wise, it's a great plus for the organization. It reduces our attacks surface quite a bit if something were to happen inside our system.
Thanks, Bryce.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Bryce.
very much.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept visitor upgrade credentialing computer system for Snoqualmie Valley Hospital.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, we're moving now to the medical committee. I don't know whether Joan or Emma is doing that today. Joan, would you like the floor?
CEO Tom Parker has mentioned a couple of the things, but I will go forward here. The current influenza and influenza-like illness statistics at state and local level have been reviewed and they're in clear decline. Mr. Parker talked about the culture of patient safety and the employee satisfaction survey, which will be happening. There's an overview of hospital policies and procedure documentation, management processes, and LUCIDOC, which is a program. In the emergency room, the DOH cardiac and stroke recertification will be submitted this month. Stroke collaboration shifting to Harborview will overlay complete reorganization of their neurology program. Cardiac collaboration will continue with overlay, has been highly effective collaboration. In the lab, more recent tests have come in-house, those being C. diff, herpes zoster, varicella zoster. We are trialing in-house night staffing for CT, X-rays, rather than on-call. It's a very cost-effective way to do business. Metrics of response time, total time in ED, staff satisfaction, and less staff expense. In the clinics, Friends of Youth, which are teen and young adult mental health services, and Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Clinic bilateral embedding of clinic staff into one another's site remains on track. Target group are teens and young adults in community reluctant to or unable to access the other discipline. Anticipate starting in April to May timeframe. The centralized referral and authorizations team officially launched mid-February, finalizing process now and receiving handoffs of work from distributed sites throughout organizations. Will manage all referrals coming and going in or out of organization, including clinics, endo, infusion wound, imaging, rehab, from initiation to final loop closure, which is delivery or receipt of final clinic documentation. And Mr. Parker talked about the Rural Health Clinic, which is preparing for the certification survey to convert both clinics that are RHC status following January 1st declaration. We are now in an health professional shortage area. Okay. One other thing, we are looking to approve
Committee charter.
the charter for the medical committee of the board. I think you all have copies. I don't think I need to read it all to you. So I will make a motion that we approve the charter for the medical committee of the board.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. It passes. Next is there anything else? Commissioner Young, are you done with medical?
I'm done.
Okay. Facilities Committee, Commissioner Pollard.
Right. We have 4 pages of our committee minutes, and they're on the back table. I'm going to try to make this brief because we have other important matters to take care of tonight. Under new business, the committees are going back and looking at our bylaws and see what must be changed as part of the bylaws revision committee. It's headed up as a commissioner by Joan Young and Emma Herron, and our attorney is also involved. At any rate, we spent a good part of the meeting looking at what is said in the bylaws about our committee and making some revisions. I don't think we need to, that's not something that's going to require an action by us or by the board at this time. That will be part of the bylaws revision. Moving along, Superintendent mentioned King County Search and Rescue and the progress they're making over there. The pension's going up. It's pretty impressive. We see how important they are to the valley by recent rescues and body recoveries. Youngsters that were on snowboards that died from up in the mountains here. And then just a few days ago, a young man fell from Rattlesnake Ridge and perished, fell 600 feet. They were there from the time they got notification to the time they reached the body within 1 hour, which I think is remarkable. But at any rate, now this brings them closer to the action. And I think it's a fine community service that we're able to provide them some space. Moving right along. We're purchasing under patient and visits with transportation item. We're purchasing 100 bus tickets from Snoqualmie Valley Transportation at a cost of $1 each that are going to be given out to patients in need, such as homeless patients. And they'll be passed out at the discretion of the front desk. And we hope that will defer some of their costs and make them feel welcome at the hospital. The gift shop is going to be doing some improvements with cabinetry that will match what we have. You've probably noticed the very attractive blue planter pots out at the main entrance. One more is coming, and it will be placed in the center to prevent what happened one time when a car almost came in our front door. Is that right, Tom?
They had parked under the awning, thinking that that was a place to pull in.
Yeah, they parked under the awning. It was raining, so they just pulled under our awning. But there's always a chance that somebody could hit the accelerator rather than brakes when they're doing that sort of thing, and they could be at our admissions desk, and we don't want that. But at any rate, the blue pots that are out there now, very attractive, done by our facilities workers, and they've done an excellent job. The final page documents organizations who are using our facilities. We welcome them. Great way to introduce the hospital, and it's Girl Scout group, Stroke Support group comes, and one that is quite notable is the Encompass leadership meeting and board meeting monthly. They're doing so many good things for the community. I would like a point of clarification myself, and that is WRHC?
That's the Rural Health Collaborative.
Oh, the Rural Health Collaborative, of which we are a member.
Correct.
I didn't know that they met here at the hospital.
On occasion.
On occasions, all right.
It rotates.
The Rural Health Collaborative. And then, of course, what has already been announced is the Snoqualmie Valley Community Network Health Fair tomorrow.
Career fair.
The Career Fair, sorry.
No.
Career Fair, and that's tomorrow. And I think it'd be nice if commissioners had the time to at least drop by and see what's going on. But this is a marvelous thing, educational thing for the young people of our community to attract them to health careers. I think it's a terrific idea. That concludes the report. If there are questions, or please pick up a copy for all the details.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Did you have anything else?
No, that completes the report, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Yes, she is. Next on the agenda is the Bylaws Committee, and it's not, you got to put it in right there under 4. That's the Bylaws
Thank
Committee.
you. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Bylaws Ad Hoc Committee met last February 8th, and today as well at 5 o'clock. And the last bylaws that we have, that the hospital was amended and restated December 8, 2016. And Pursuant to Article 1 of our bylaws, we are required to review them every 2 years, part of our fiscal responsibility. So, we are seeking your input, questions, suggestions, and any concerns that you may have pertaining to the bylaws for Public Hospital District Number 4. The Bylaws Ad Hoc Committee consists of Commissioner Joan Young, myself, Superintendent CEO Tom Parker, and District's General Legal Counsel Skip Hauser. Our committee is requesting that you identify any issues in the bylaws whatsoever that you believe should either be reviewed, further clarified, modified, or otherwise even just addressed with further scrutiny by the committee. The committee also is requesting that these comments should be provided in an email to our Superintendent, CEO Tom Parker, by April 6th. That is a Friday, 2018. This is a draft of what we discussed today, and you will be receiving a change of the date from our Superintendent, CEO Tom Parker, sometime next Monday.
So tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh, thank you.
This is a memo that Commissioner Herron has just read in, and you'll receive a copy of that tomorrow in email along with a Word version of the bylaws. So it's easy for you to make changes if you want to in a tracking changes version.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Point of order, Madam President.
Yes.
Maybe this was an oversight on my part, but under committee reports, Vice President Herron did a good job of getting authorization of the charter revision for the medical committee. I did not call for that because I didn't see an action item for either of any of the committees. Would it be appropriate now and necessary for the charter revision of the facilities committee to be approved by the board, or what is the determination there?
Do we have a copy of that? Does everybody have a copy?
Yes, we do have a copy.
Well, that's,
And normally when we
Could we-
do a motion, we have it as an action item, which
I don't know that those have gone out, though, have they?
Pardon?
I don't think they've gone out to the full board.
The facility, it's included in the
I
facility.
thought they had to
Oh,
be
it's
part
not.
of the minutes.
It's not in the minutes, correct? I don't see them in
I didn't see it.
Oh, the actual document.
Right, we don't have it.
For us to look at, yeah.
The
Yeah.
document still needs to go to the board.
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pollard. All right. Moving on, we're going to the old business, and that would be affiliation. And we're going to be getting a report from the negotiating team. Sarah is here, Sarah Cave, to give us an update. What's going on?
Thank you. I'm Sarah Cave of Sarah Cave Consulting. This is my colleague Steve Hebner from Hebner Advisory. And we're going to give you an affiliation update and then pause at the appropriate time for the negotiating team members, the commissioners on the negotiating team, to get you up to speed on a few things, and then we'll move to some recommendations that the negotiating team has. And I will invite Steve to chime in if he has commentary to add as I'm walking through this. So the objectives tonight, again, an affiliation update. We will talk a little bit about a Plan B that the negotiating team has been discussing, and move to, again, a board decision and vote around the next steps. Group agreements, you're all familiar with these, very practiced in observing them, so we'll move on. Just very quickly, a reminder of the affiliation engagement process and where we have been, the phases we've moved through, and where we are currently. If you look at this slide, we were sort of halfway through phase 4 and beginning to engage in due diligence and take some steps toward a letter of intent. So that's just a kind of a picture of a reminder of the steps that we've been through. And I think one of the things that's important to re-ground you in as we walk through the rest of this tonight is what we did early on in phases 1 and phase 2 around developing your guiding principles and goals of affiliation. Those have been really helpful criteria, if you will, as we've been moving through this process. So, quick reminder of why it is that this board made the decision to engage in discussions with Astrea. As I believe everyone's aware, Astrea was the only organization that followed through on its intent to respond to the RFP. And their initial proposal did a pretty good job of addressing the board's goals of affiliation. In particular, I think the revenue bond debt service, which was your highest priority item, as well as the growth in services around making some investments to expand the services here locally. You heard when John Gallagher and his team came initially to visit about a rebranding effort that Astrea had been through and some of what they were intending with that. And they also made a clear commitment in their proposal to invest to the tune of $10 million in upgrading facilities to be able to expand service offerings such as surgery. So a little bit of background and context about what's happened since October 26th, which is when you voted to move forward with the next phase of strategic affiliation discussions with Astrea. At that time, what we envisioned we'd be moving into was the drafting of a letter of intent. And I'll come back to that in a moment. And then, of course, initiation of due diligence, gathering of more information from both parties and analyzing that. On October 26th, the board also agreed to form a negotiating team to work through the letter of intent and the due diligence phase with representatives of Astrea. And that team was comprised of 2 commissioners, President Norris and Secretary Spikers, as well as Tom Parker and General Counsel Skip Hauser and Steve and myself. So the negotiating team has been meeting every 2 to 3 weeks and staying in contact pretty regularly over email and by phone as needed in between. We did have one joint negotiating team with members of Astrea's executive team, and that was on December 8th. And then in early January, the 2 parties decided that it would be a good idea to put the letter of intent on hold for a 30 to 45-day time period in order to evaluate what was an alternative transaction structure that Astrea had asked SPH to consider. And it was a little bit different and more complex than the more straightforward lease arrangement that we had originally been anticipating. And so we felt as a group it would be good to recommend to you all, let's take a pause before we enter into a letter of intent and really investigate, is this workable and is it feasible? So here's where I'm going to turn things over to, first let me ask, Steve, do you have anything to add?
No,
Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to President Norris and Secretary Spikers to give you a formal briefing from the negotiating team before we move ahead with Plan B.
Okay, I have to confess, this is the first time I've seen this, and it was put in front of me to read, so I'm a little disturbed that I didn't have it earlier. The current status, following this exploration and nearing the end of a 45-day time frame that had previously been agreed upon, the affiliation consultants communicated a request to Astria Health on behalf of the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital negotiating team to move forward with haste to, one, perform the financial due diligence that would be necessary and meet the initial bondholder requirements, and two, begin negotiating on a short-term list of deal points and critical importance. I can tell you we did our part. We didn't hear anything from Astria, nothing. The Snoqualmie Valley negotiating team met on February 26 and agreed that Astria's response to the request was not in alignment with the district's guiding principles nor the goals of affiliation. Based on this, the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital negotiating team recommends to the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board that it discontinue affiliation discussions with Astria and regroup around a Plan B. Plan B involves reconnecting with those parties who initially intended to respond to the RFP for affiliation to determine if there is interest in pursuing an alternative affiliation agreement based on a more flexible set of transaction provisions. I think everybody got a note from me when I was approached by John, one of the representatives, and I do not believe in backdoor dealings. I feel the board needs to know, and that's why I sent that out, is that I didn't want, and at the same time he was reaching out to me, he was reaching out to Tom. So that right
Reaching out to all of
I
us.
did not get a copy of that.
Oh, I will make sure you get a copy. It's just a letter where I told him I would not meet with him. That's all I pretty much said in private. So
What
I...
copies went to the other?
Did you? I didn't get one.
No?
However, I did get an email as well from Mr. Gallagher's executive assistant, and I did acknowledge that I received it, and that is all that I say.
I'm surprised because I used the hospital district email and I sent them out to everybody. So if you didn't get them, I am really sorry because I want you to know that we didn't hear anything from him for a while, and then all of a sudden he wanted to start negotiating, and I will be quiet.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Tom, before I move ahead to
Recommendations.
I think that-
We have
I'll
recommendations from
the other
negotiating
member of the
team.
negotiating team.
Sure. Secretary Spikers.
I think pretty much summed up. I have my own feelings about what happened, but my feelings really don't have any relevance to the proceedings. I'd rather keep them to myself. I think that pretty much summed up what I thought did happen, and that is pretty accurate.
I would agree. Having been on the negotiating team, I think that what you read in here is a very accurate reflection. It doesn't, of course, give all the detail, but it is an accurate reflection of the deliberations and the mindset and unanimous recommendation from our negotiating team.
Anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's consistent. I guess I would just add, I think to emphasize there were really two areas. One was the district performing due diligence on Astria and seeking information there, and then the other was on some deal points that I think that the negotiating team felt that you, as a board, were very important to you. And so it was just seeking information in both of those areas. I think we just felt like we didn't get enough information that was meaningful to move forward.
I think that's accurate, wouldn't you say, David?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about the Plan B proposal that we've been discussing in the negotiating team setting. And that would be to approach the organizations that initially intended to respond to the RFP but did not actually wind up responding. And those, just for a recap, are Multicare, Overlake, UW Medicine, and Virginia Mason. And the idea here would be, rather than a formal RFP, to start with personal phone calls or meetings to explore their interest in having some discussion about potential affiliation options, And with that would come a deeper discussion around some more flexible Plan B provisions, which the negotiating team has begun to discuss, around the term of such an agreement, the debt service component, service expansion, excess tax revenues, branding, all of those things that you all identified in your goals for affiliation. But the idea here again would be to have provisions that were a bit more flexible, allowing a potential affiliate partner to come forward with sort of their best ideas, as opposed to a more restrictive approach, which is what we took the first time around, and wound up only with the one response. So that's really what is on the table in terms of proposed next steps. And I think here we're moving to an official negotiating team recommendation. Excuse me. And that is, does the board wish to accept the negotiating team's recommendations that discussions with Astrea be discontinued and that the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board move on to Plan B of the affiliation process?
Is there a motion to,
Does this require a motion or maybe
Yeah.
consensus at this point?
well, I think we're going to, at some point tonight, we're going to need a motion to know where we're going to go next.
And
Take
also that
action.
means to authorize the chair to notify Astrea, Regional Health Yakima, Astrea, that we are terminating our negotiation.
Discontinue.
I think that's probably, I'm not sure how they plan on doing it, but
Well, I mean, it's up to us.
yes, and I would think so, but
Is that correct?
Sarah, that we would send them a note and tell them that we are no longer interested in moving forward.
At this time.
At this
Might be
point.
appropriate. I don't know if you want to mention the late-breaking communication.
I will mention that. Late this afternoon, we did receive a letter from Astrea, knowing that we were headed likely in this direction, and they said it was a thank you. We wish you Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and the district well, and we understand where things are probably going to go. And if you change your mind and you want to reinitiate conversations with us, we are open to that. But it's a very gracious letter, kind of knowing where we were headed. That came from Mr. Gallagher.
I would presume that our chair's letter would also be as gracious and wish them well in providing health services in the Yakima Valley.
I think that would be
Yeah.
appropriate.
That sounds like a very good idea, Commissioner Pollard.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I make a motion
You can.
that the board, SVH board, move on to Plan B of the affiliation process.
Does that include item 1 in your motion?
Okay, so, no, I just wanted, my choice would be number 2. I don't want to include number 1.
The recommendation would be that discussions with Astrea be discontinued, and that the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital Board would move into Plan B of affiliation process.
Is it appropriate for me to mention both of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion that, 1, the discussions with Astrea be discontinued, and 2, that the SVH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I would have
Mr. David?
some reservations about item number 2. And I'm going to discuss it if you don't mind. I don't think that we should rush into Plan B immediately. I think we should have an immediate or quick of the next work study session on the 28th, which I now know I will be at, to talk some more about potential options. And I would like to hold off on Plan B. For that reason, I'd rather have the board as a whole talk about this a little bit more and potential options.
I agree with Commissioner Spikers. I think we do as a board need to, we're all going to be responsible for whatever decision we make, whether we approve it or not, but we're all in this together. And so I think that to have some discussions amongst ourselves and decide how we see this, I think would be a good idea. Commissioner
Does the
Paul?
motion need to be amended?
Well, we have
We're
one
still under
motion.
discussion, correct?
No, can we clarify the motion, please?
The motion,
No, I'm from the clerk. I'd like to, she's
Oh.
the one recording the
Commissioner
motion.
Aaron moved that, pretty much verbatim what's on the screen, but moved that discussion with S3 be discontinued, and two, that the SPH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process.
And it was seconded by Commissioner Young. So your motion before the body at this time has been moved and has been seconded. You are in debate at this point.
I think the point that you made and Commissioner Spikers made is well-founded, partly because we haven't clarified what Plan B is, number one. Number two, we should learn something from this process. When we tried an affiliation and the LOI years ago with another hospital, after it was over, we didn't do an after-action report, our lessons learned, and I think that hurt us in this process. So I don't know how to do it mechanically or with Robert's Rules of Order, but I think that your point about we're in this together and we should be able to meet as a group before we automatically go to an undefined Plan B.
May I make
Well,
a
yeah, go
suggestion,
ahead.
Commissioner Pollard? If that's what you're saying, then I understand that what you would like to say is that we, or amend the motion to that discussions with ASTRA be discontinued, and then from there, that the board decide what Plan B is going to be.
And the board will consider other options.
Yeah, may I say something about the Plan B? It's been summarized exactly what Plan B is. It's right here, how it's going to be about, it's going to go about it, the process. So I think it's clear, to me at least. I am looking more on what is the financial ramifications for continuing to delay this. What is our financial obligation now?
Commissioner Paul.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
We have time. Act in haste, repent at leisure. I think if we just go with the item 1, then that's good for tonight, and we can consider item 2 at a separate meeting and meet as a group to discuss what we might want to create ourselves or form ourselves as Plan B.
Is there further discussion on that suggestion?
I guess I have a question. Do we have to vote on this particular thing, or can we motion as presented, or do we need to amend it?
Well, I think Emma made a motion, and I don't think we got a second.
Yes, Joan did.
Right, so we have a second. So that, we either vote for that or against that. We have, or withdraw it. It's up to the board, but
Do you want to withdraw it and then amend it?
are we doing this right?
Well, you have a
You have to
motion
vote first on the
and a
first
second.
motion.
You should resolve this motion before
Yes.
the body now.
Okay,
You vote it up or down.
Yes, you have to
and then
vote
you can
first.
make new motions.
Right.
okay.
I move we table the motion and reconsider a different.
No, there's, no.
No,
The
we
first
have to
motion
vote.
has
No,
to
there's a
be.
second.
Have to
Table
vote.
the motion?
No, there's
No.
a second.
It's been moved and seconded. It is in debate at this point.
But you can still table the motion. if that's
Not
okay.
yet.
Well, you could table the motion to a future date, and...
But it's still there.
Require a majority vote. You can table the motion to a future date, set a date for the motion to be brought back off the table for consideration. And you would require, in order to table the motion, you'll need a second, and you'll need a vote to table.
Can we hear a recommendation from the superintendent?
Gladly. I would recommend that you, not hearing what I'm hearing, that you take a vote on the motion. My guess is that we'll likely fail, and then provide you with an opportunity to make another motion. and then you don't have to come back to it. And I think this is what Skip was saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It's clean, and you don't have to carry that motion further to another meeting.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
Repeat again, please.
Okay, could you read it for us, please, Val?
Commissioner Herron moved that one, that discussions with Astrea be discontinued, and two, that the SBH board move on to Plan B of affiliation process. And Commissioner Young seconded.
Well, Plan B isn't defined.
Do we vote on one first?
No.
No, we've
Both-
said no.
Both parts.
So I'm
Both
going to make
parts.
another
Same
motion.
vote.
Okay.
No, that motion failed. I'm going to make another motion.
No, we didn't.
Not yet,
You
not yet.
didn't vote yet.
Oh, we didn't? I thought we said no.
Not yet.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those that oppose say no.
No.
Okay,
Now that motion has failed, and that has been completed.
yes.
You now can,
Make.
Madam President, make additional motions, request motions to be made.
I will
from the
request.
chair committee.
Yeah. Is there any other motion?
I make a motion that discussions with Astrea be discontinued and a polite letter, gracious letter be sent to them,
I second it.
Period.
period.
Is there any other discussion? Do we have a second?
Yes,
Yep,
John?
okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes.
So what we would be happy to do is provide to you a little bit more of the framing discussion that we had at our last negotiating team meeting, because we did spend quite a bit of time on those Plan B provisions, and we can certainly share that with you in anticipation of whenever you're going to have those board discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
Weather is terrible.
Okay.
All right. We have resolutions.
Okay, next on the agenda is the new business. We have resolution number 5400318, the surplus equipment.
I move approval of resolution number 5400318, surplus equipment.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion?
I just have one. What is the surplus equipment?
This is a check.
The excess
Oh.
property that is not,
Oh, I didn't look on the back.
Yeah.
Sorry, never
Old
mind.
printers.
I got it here.
Is there any further discussion? We can move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is carried.
Mhm.
All right, now we have time for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment?
Oh, well, as a public.
Come on up.
Precious Rick, I don't live in the district, but this is the best meeting I've actually seen in quite a few years. I mean, as a public member, I always view outside of the meeting. It was informational.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your contribution.
Actually, I have a brief comment.
Okay.
I'd just like to make sure that the burden model is foremost in your mind and in consideration as you consider to go forward in negotiations with other entities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other things that we need to address? Well, we still have new business items, the resolution. The surplus. We already did that.
took it all.
Oh,
You took
knocked
it
it
all
off.
in one fell swoop.
We did, okay. Any other comments that the board wants to make before we close? I know it's not on here, but I'm going to ask anyhow.
I just want to compliment the chair on how constructive the meeting was.
Thank you,
And I
Commissioner.
Rice's point of view.
If there are no other comments?
Just, if we could, at our next work study meeting, bring this potential planning issue that we want to talk to about at that meeting. If that
March
would be-
28th?
Yes.
Make sure all commissioners can attend.
I can attend that.
That is, Madam Chair, that is what I wanted to mention. In the last work study meeting, I did mention that I will be at my son's wedding on that day.
On the 28th?
And
That's why we have
Val
to-
is working diligently to find an alternative date.
Is there any rule that says we can't have two work studies in the same month? By that I mean, could it be late in the month or the first of the next month without losing the work study of that month?
I would,
No prohibition, Commissioner Pollard, those are special meetings, you can set a special meeting anytime you want with 24 hours notice. So you can set as many workshops as you like.
I think your question is, if I understand, Commissioner Pollard, is that you want to discuss affiliation at a work study and what Plan B would look like, correct?
Yes, and I'd also like to hear the agenda that was already scheduled for this month, where Tom Parker would tell us about our achievements for 2017, and we'd also get a quality report. I think it's a quarterly report that we usually get, a safety report.
Compliance report.
Compliance report.
Well, I don't think that 2 work studies, I don't know if we can do it all in one meeting.
Well,
Can we? I think
Valerie
we can.
has been looking for a date. Do you have any success yet, Valerie?
No, the 2 days under consideration is March 22nd and March 26th. I have 2 commissioners that only one of those dates work, and I've not got confirmation from
Me?
others.
Could we also consider looking at other times besides 6 p.m.? 6 p.m.?
Do that, as far as I know.
The Evergreen Health hosts their work study sessions in the afternoon. Maybe that would help us with a little flexibility. But at any rate, I think it's very important that the superintendent be at the work study session, both of them.
So if I understand correctly, then March 28th is not a good date.
I apologize. I'll talk to my son
Okay.
about that. Now, I'll add one other option, and that is that we devote our next regularly scheduled board meeting to this topic. That's firm in the calendar.
You mean the April, we're talking about?
Affiliation.
Yeah, I know it's a month from now. If all else fails and we can't get a time that works for everybody.
I just want to make one last comment. I have a certain plan that I think I'm going to stick to. I've discussed this in the finance of the short committee of the finance committee about how I would like to proceed in any kind of an affiliation process. And I'm I'm going to be really digging my heels in that. If it doesn't go that way, I'm going to allow someone else to take over the reins. So, and I'll give my reasons, but I think you should probably all understand where I'm coming from and why I'm saying what I'm going to say at the next meeting. And I really think that the process that we've had has not been effective and worth what we've been paying. So,
Commissioner Spikers, is there a reason why you can't share that right now with us?
yeah, sure, I can. I really don't think what we've done in the last 4 months has been something that really, I'll just go back to a year ago when I told the board several times in open hearings that we need a deal maker. I suggested Howard Thomas, and everybody said, boo-hoo. And that was fine. A board made its...
Not everybody.
So, okay, I got a lot of flack from it, from the staff to other board members. And I wanted to short-circuit this big planning RFP process because I knew it was not going to work. What we were asking for was incredibly ridiculous based on our position. And I do not wish to have the CEO involved in any affiliation process. I don't think it's his jurisdiction. I think the board needs to take over, and it needs a point person, a one point person that reports to the board only, and not to the CEO or any other staff, and let the board decide, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. And I would like to have this someone with as much pizzazz, if you will, as Howard Thomas. And I want the board to know that if this type of process isn't, then we can go through with Plan B. But if that is not, if that's not the process, I'm going to hand over the reins to whoever wants it, and they can go run with whatever plan they want. But that's the only way it's going to work, and short-circuit the large costs involved in affiliation.
Okay, can I say something?
Well, no, I'm not done yet.
Go ahead.
I also said if you're going to have an affiliation process, you better get a group that, I said the $400,000 folks may have been very exorbitant, but I said you may only have one shot at it, and one shot only. You should probably try to guarantee what you're going to do right away off the bat and spend some money one time instead of twice or three times. And this is the third time now that we will be going and thinking about affiliation with another entity. So one time, two times, is three times a charm? I don't know. But I don't think if we do not facilitate a short circuit or a quick line to where we want to go quickly with one person on the rein reporting to the board, this affiliation process will not work.
Okay, I have a
Commissioner
question.
Herron
May I say
has
something?
the floor.
First question, David, what is your relationship with this man?
With who?
With Howard?
I don't know him any other than the last time we were, a few phone calls.
Where is he from?
The only time I've met him is at our meetings.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make a comment. I believe that the CEO, the executive leadership team, should take the leadership in affiliation, to give them that opportunity to be able to meet with other health systems, other hospitals, find out, if they're interested. I think that they should be able to, rather than having to hire another person, whether, I don't know how much he would charge us, I think it is the CEO and the leadership team to take that role and then report to us. Because I think we have a new CEO. The past that you have referring to, of course, was a dismal failure, although I wasn't on board then. But I think this is an opportunity to start a clean slate with our CEO that has an excellent experience in healthcare systems. And he rose through the ranks, whereas the previous CEO really did not have that experience. So let's give him the opportunity to take that leadership role. That's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard, would you like the floor?
What do you mean by him?
Meaning our current superintendent, CEO Tom Parker. The previous CEO did not come from a hospital administrative function. So our current CEO, Tom Parker, has an excellent...
The way I feel about it is if one of our groundskeepers had the ability and talent to speak with another hospital and get us a deal, I'm for it. I identify with what Mr. Spiker said. If you go back to our affiliation attempt with Overlay, there were no members of their board in that affiliation process. This is what I mean by we should have done an after-action report. I have full confidence in our superintendent. If he wants to be the point man, but frankly, I also have full confidence in Howard Thomas, because he was making some progress when we told him to put it on hold because we were going to be talking affiliation and we didn't want the possible partner to know that we were out looking for some kind of merger situation. But so here's what you should know about Howard. I found this out in research with other institutions. He was responsible for the affiliation of Virginia Mason with what was previously Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital, the largest hospital in the valley. He was the guy that put that together, and he has a record of putting things like that together. And so I think there were some misunderstandings when we suspended work with Howard that may just be that, misunderstandings. I think we should check with Howard Thomas. Perhaps the superintendent could meet with him privately, see if we could clear up any misunderstandings, consider other ECG, for instance. David mentioned ECG.
Do we really want?
Well, let me finish. I just think that Spikers is on the right, Commissioner Spikers is on the right track. And what we don't need is to continue. We've spent $60,000 to $70,000 right now on consultants just in this iteration. That's what they told us would be the total cost of their participation that would bring us to some kind of merger or affiliation. We're nowhere near there. We got one bid, and we've spent at least $60,000. So let's be smart about this. As far as holding this as a regular board meeting, I think we need to have a work session where we can interchange ideas and build on others' ideas without so much rigidity as we had when Mr. Gallagher was here and we were allowed to ask one question at a time. It was very rigid. We need an informal meeting of the minds where we can build on each other's insights. And I should stop there.
I just want to can I tag on to what he did say?
You better make it short, because Commissioner Young gets a chance.
Okay. Commissioner Young, you want to speak first?
Well, I'm just going to say, why don't we table this whole discussion about how we're going to do, what we're going to do, and whatever, until we get to the work study and
Do some hashing it out.
and hash it out appropriately.
I agree.
Commissioner Spikers?
Sounds good to me, but I could just tell you that the former CEO and didn't pay Mr. Thomas for 6, 8, 9 months after receiving a bill, and he may not want to work with us ever again. And I'm just saying, and not to mention that none of the staff has been very welcoming of him, whether it be the last CEO, and I don't think Mr. Parker or Tom really wanted to have him partake in any kind of discussion.
Okay.
Just quick question, what is his professional background? Because I don't know him from Adam. What is his?
He puts together hospital
Yeah, but what is
affiliation
his
deals.
title in the past? What?
All right, point of order.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
My turn.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's all right. I'm probably one of those people that had issues with David's friend. And,
Not a friend,
what's
believe
his
me.
name? What's his name?
Howard
Thomas.
Yes, with Howard Thomas. I did have some issues with him, mostly because he didn't report to us and we didn't know anything was going on. I have also talked and was on the first one when I got right here, and I know Commissioner Jones, I know everybody else, but Emma knows that I was on that committee. And I did talk to Mike from Overlake. That's who we were discussing with. And it was our debt. Our debt was the issue for them. Now, we still have debt, but we also have a new facility, and we also have money in the bank.
And
Which
a
makes,
track record.
yes. So now we are in a different position than we were then. So I'm open to whatever the board says. I think a work study session, we've already started talking, but I think a work study would be a good time for us to do that and for us to close up tonight, and we can all sleep on this and think about it and come back. The difficulty is going to be to get a good work session. And we have a public comment that wants to speak. Is that all right?
Yes.
The chair will recognize you, yes.
Thank you. I'm Sandy Johnson, and I live in the district. I probably have handled 30 hospital affiliations, and I'm not making a big figure lawyer to do it. But what I will tell you is the board can do it any way they want. But I have never seen an executive excluded from the process. The executive, in my experience, is always the point person who's dealing with the folks on the other side. Boards get involved to different extents. It is a very sort of personalized process for each organization. So you can have people from the board who are involved, and you have people who have business and negotiating experience. They're very valuable to be in the process. But the other thing is, if you've got somebody who you know has put together these kind of things before and is effective at putting together these kinds of things, particularly in the healthcare space, it's a really specialized and hazardous area. So if you've got people who are experienced at doing it, you want to take advantage of that experience if you can. However you think is appropriate to do.
Thank you. Could you say your name for the record?
Sandy Johnson.
Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate it.
What do you mean you've handled 30 affiliations
Hospital affiliations.
as legal counsel?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
As the regulatory side
Okay.
on the legal counsel. I don't do the corporate work to put it together, but I advise on the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard.
Commissioner Young was asking, what's his background and all of that. I think you
It
can
was-
notice the number of affiliations and mergers he's put together.
Commissioner Herring.
But here's, Commissioner Herring asked that question. Here's an important thing. He's a resident of North Canton. He has the community interests at heart as opposed to somebody who might come here from Timbuktu. And I talked with him a few months ago, and I think he is a sincere person and a capable person, and we ought to check with him as one of our possibilities. But I think that the idea of discussing this further in a work session is a good one.
Okay.
And so I suggest that we not go further tonight in the discussion.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Pollard?
I move that we discuss the Plan B here, or the item 2 here, and the idea of a Plan B in a work session to be held as soon as convenient for all of the principals to attend, including commissioners and the superintendent.
Okay. Is there a second?
And, of course,
Is this a
This is a
point of
motion.
order? Is this a point of?
But there's a motion before the body. Your president has asked, is there a second to the motion? If there is no second forthcoming, it would die.
I second.
And second, now you can have debate discussion.
Is there any debate?
Are we not on the
we had
other?
a
We
debate.
are on the other. We did not
For the
have
last half
any. This is
hour,
where we are
please.
now.
I think so.
I move that we vote on it. I would like to
Call the question.
call for the question.
All right.
Point of order. We were on the other.
Yes, and
It was
under
not
your
a-
president has opened up a debate and a
Is that
discussion.
okay?
So this is still before the body.
Okay. Thank you. Just for clarification.
Now, could you read what the motion is for us right now?
Commissioner Pollard moved to discuss Plan B, and item number 2 is set forth under the recommendations in a work study as soon as possible and as convenient for all parties.
And did I get a second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Next scheduled meeting, March 28th, is on this little paper here, but that's not the case. So that will come up when Val can get a time for all of us to be available.
I'll resend the 2 dates that are currently considered and an additional 2 dates, April 4th or 5th.
Yeah, well, April's out for me.
Well, I'll take a look and see what we can do, and maybe be
Okay.
flexible with time of day. Is that helpful at all?
That
for
will
you?
not be, I will
Okay.
be starting.
Okay.
I will not be around.
All right, so we'll try and arrange for that. Next regular meeting is April 12th, 2018, 6:30 p.m. in the North-South Conference Room, right where we are now. Do I have a motion to dismiss?
I make to adjourn.
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 Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
I came from school, is that
I
right?
guess, yeah. I did do that with my kids. Okay. Is there a second? Yes? First, second? Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.